Bill Gates is undoubtedly one of the greatest entrepreneurs of all time, and perhaps the one who ushered in a new era in the modern world. William Harry Gates III, or simply Bill, was born in Seattle, Washington, in the United States, on October 28, 1955. His father, William Gates, was a successful lawyer, and his mother, Mary Max Gates, was a teacher. His maternal grandfather owned a financial institution in the early 20th century. From an early age, Bill had a privileged life that allowed him and his sisters to attend the best schools in their city. Even as a young child, he showed some characteristics that set him apart from other students. In his first school, he displayed scattered behavior and sometimes seemed uninterested in studying. This changed only when he switched schools, becoming a true nerd upon entering a school focused on scientific education. In this new school, Bill gained access to the tool that would change his life: the computer. Enchanted by the machine, which had limited resources at the time, Bill began attending school outside of class hours and quickly learned programming with the help of monitors, teachers, and other students. During his computer learning journey, he met his best friend. In his late teens, still an adolescent, he began working with software and electronic games, including arcades. At the age of 17, he, along with Paul Allen, developed software for reading magnetic tapes, marking the beginning of a partnership with his now business partner. Bill was quite introspective and seemed much younger than he actually was. Additionally, he had difficulties in relationships, especially with women. He typically preferred to talk about technical subjects and would inquire whether potential girlfriends had good grades in school, which made him less attractive to women in general. In 1973, he enrolled at the prestigious Harvard University, but in 1975, he dropped out of his mathematics and law courses. His family had a strong desire for him to become a lawyer, but Bill had other interests and lacked the inclination to become a lawyer, primarily due to his shyness. He was frequently fined for speeding, which was not very appropriate for someone who upheld the law. In the same year he dropped out of Harvard, he reunited with Paul Allen and developed the basic language interpretation system for the Altair 8800 computer. This computer was considered the most popular of its time, and it was common for young people to create various modifications of the product and showcase them at electronics fairs and conferences. Several large corporations monitored these events. Their system had a reasonable return, and with the money from sales, Bill and Paul founded Microsoft, a software company for personal computers, also known as PCs. In 1977 came the big breakthrough, the event that would change the history of computers forever. The leading company in the mainframe computer market, IBM, decided to enter the personal microcomputer market and was seeking a company that could provide a system that would deliver what we now know as an operating system for its future microcomputers. Bill Gates managed to secure a meeting with the company's executives and presented a business plan involving the sale of system licenses to the company, offering a service that was revolutionary at the time. The system to be delivered would have a series of commands and specifications that any customer would appreciate, putting IBM ahead of its competitors. After captivating IBM executives with his presentation, Bill played a card that would make him world famous and wealthy years later. Instead of selling his system to IBM outright, he offered only the software license. Each IBM computer would come factory installed with Microsoft's system, causing the computer giant to pay a unit license fee per computer. Without knowing of any similar product on the market, IBM struck a deal with the young entrepreneur, and Microsoft managed to secure an initial contract that would potentially provide over $8 million at the time. The problem was that Bill Gates and Paul Allen still didn't have the system, and they had closed the deal before having the money to develop it. However, they had access to important information from attending the world of computer events and conferences. They knew that there was a programmer in the city of Albuquerque, New Mexico, who had a system capable of delivering what IBM wanted so badly. This programmer, until then, couldn't showcase the importance of his work to the world and was only limited to specific niches of programmers. At a certain point, Bill Gates and Paul Allen offered $50,000 to acquire the system and product created by that programmer. Without resistance, in just a few months, Microsoft was already spreading its system worldwide through every new personal computer released by IBM. Without an exclusivity contract with IBM, Microsoft began licensing its DOS system to several other computer manufacturers. At one point, even Apple entered into partnership contracts with Microsoft. This contract forged a friendship between two giants, Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. Together, the two computer geniuses began creating a product in partnership and even worked together on projects within Apple. However, their relationship started to deteriorate after a disagreement. At the same time as he worked with Jobs, Bill Gates also developed his first operating system, Windows. At the time, Stevie was working to create his most controversial project, the Lisa. The Lisa was a computer that brought together the state-of-the-art in computer creation, and Steve Jobs invested in various innovations for the product. These innovations, ahead of their time, consumed a significant portion of Apple's cash reserves and were one of the reasons that led to Jobs' dismissal from his own company. Assisting in the production of the Lisa, which featured a graphical interface, a huge advancement for its time, Bill Gates had access to various production lines within Apple. Within the company, he could observe and propose ideas for Apple products, but many of them were not accepted. Simultaneously, Microsoft was also creating its own graphical user interface operating system, Windows, which boasted attributes significantly superior to Apple's products. Upon its release, Windows revolutionized the way personal computers were used and came as a shock to Steve Jobs. Not only did it feature similar or even more advanced resources compared to the Lisa, but it also managed to simplify some of the contentious elements of the Lisa. One of Windows' innovations was its integration with color systems, the mobility of on-screen objects, and most notably, the use of the mouse. Steve Jobs is indeed considered the father of the mouse and the graphical interface, but interestingly, both technologies were developed at Xerox, an American company that also sought to enter the personal computer market. Famous for its copiers, Xerox presented these tools to Jobs himself, but saw no utility for their products. Shortly after, Jobs integrated the tools into his products, enhancing their attributes and giving them the distinct Apple touch. Due to the simultaneous involvement in gaming at the time and the use of Xerox's tools, both video games and computer games were dubbed Pirates of Computing or Pirates of Silicon Valley, as they frequently made innovations close to or similar to those of their competitors. The nickname even inspired a movie of the same name released in 1999. The creation of Windows marked the enduring end of the relationship between Jobs and Gates. Apple even sued Microsoft for copying and patent infringement. However, after 6 years of legal battles, Apple ended up losing the case. According to the verdict, Microsoft's product was not a copy of Apple's, despite some apparent similarities. The two only reconciled in the 1990s when Jobs returned as CEO of Apple. On that occasion, Microsoft invested $150 million in Apple shares and brought one of its most profitable products, the Office suite of applications, to Mac computers. At the same time, while preparing their flagship product, Gates lost the daily company of his best friend and partner, Paul Allen, who was diagnosed with cancer in 1982. The cancer was cured after several months of radiation therapy, but he did not return to the day-to-day operations of Microsoft and began to distance himself from the company. He passed away in 2014, leaving Gates as the sole face of Microsoft and its CEO. Allen officially resigned from his position on the Microsoft board of directors in November 2000, and his stake in the company dropped from 28% to 2%. Windows was launched in 1983 and gradually captured 90% of the world's computers. As Microsoft grew steadily, it witnessed Apple's struggles and worst years, even leading to the dismissal of its founder, Steve Jobs, in 1976. Microsoft went public with its stocks soaring, making 31-year-old Bill Gates a billionaire, as he held 45% of the company's shares. The success of Windows eventually sparked the greed of its own partner. IBM decided to enter the operating system market in earnest, launching its own system, OS/2. The release raised concerns for Microsoft, but Bill spearheaded efforts to create a product superior to IBM's. While the competitor treated its operating systems as just another product, all its wealth wasn't enough to compete with the specialist in operating systems. In response, Microsoft, which deeply understood its competing systems, launched Windows 3.0, a product that elevated the company's sales to another level, quickly outpacing IBM's release. In 1993, an investigation alleged that Microsoft was forcing computer manufacturers to pay for licenses of its operating system for every computer they produced, even for units that didn't have the company's system. In 1994, Microsoft reached an agreement with the US government to stop charging royalties for every computer manufactured. New competitors emerged, and Microsoft began a constant battle with IBM. The issues with the government and competition caused a turbulent moment for Microsoft, leading to a sharp decline in the company's stock. Amidst this chaos, Bill found himself exposed to immense media attention worldwide. He quickly became one of the most recognizable faces on the planet, and several advertisements were made featuring him alongside his old Harvard friend Steve Ballmer. Amidst a whirlwind of problems, Bill Gates showed that he was always one step ahead, and this philosophy was solidified with the launch of Windows 95, considered the company's most innovative product to date. Windows 95 showcased the best technology available at the time and reinvented the concept of an operating system, making personal computers so simple that anyone could use them. In addition to being user-friendly, the system introduced innovations and tools that could be utilized by consumers of all ages, from children to the elderly. This technology helped popularize the use of personal computers worldwide. With its launch, Bill assumed the title of the world's richest man, a position he held from 1995 to 2017, according to Forbes' annual ranking. Toward the end of his reign, Bill was occasionally surpassed by Carlos Slim and Amancio Ortega, but he only relinquished the top spot in 2018 when Amazon's founder Jeff Bezos took the lead. Bezos would go on to become the first person to amass a net worth of $100 billion in a matter of months, a milestone that Gates would also achieve later on. Currently, only Bezos, Gates, and Bernard Arnault boast fortunes exceeding 12 digits. In the latest Forbes list, Gates ranked third behind Bernard Arnault. However, it's worth noting that Gates has donated a portion of his fortune over the years. Bill Gates was often considered a distant boss by his employees. Most of the time, he wouldn't return calls or contacts from his own staff and was even hard to find for his collaborators. Bill is a workaholic, and besides working intensely, it wasn't unusual to see him sleeping on the floor of his company's offices. His dealings with employees weren't always considered the friendliest. He used a strategy of constantly challenging his employees, saying that every idea he heard was the worst he'd ever heard in his life. This phrase was strategically positioned to see how convinced his employees were about the quality of their own ideas. Despite being distant, Bill was aware that innovation should be frequent, and a new competitor seemed to threaten part of his success. While Windows reigned supreme, a new phenomenon was emerging on computers: the Internet. Popularizing in the 1990s, the Internet emerged as a major medium through which people could connect and take personal computing to a new level. However, to access the Internet, computers needed to provide not only the ability to connect to the network through equipment like modems, but also to have software capable of accessing the newly emerging sites. Thus, browsers emerged as an easy, quick, and organized way to access the Internet. Initially, a company called Netscape dominated the browser market. However, Microsoft was late to the game and had to create Internet Explorer, a product that would take the company to new heights, dominating an emerging market as well. All computers that came with the Windows operating system already had Internet Explorer installed on their hard drives. Netscape couldn't keep up with the competition from Microsoft and ceased its operations in 2002. Other competitors emerged later, such as Mozilla Firefox, Opera, and Google Chrome, which finally managed to dethrone Gates's browser by the end of the 2000s. Constant innovation has always been a hallmark of Microsoft and remains present to this day. Bill has always been at the forefront of the company's innovation process. In 1995, he published his first book, The Road Ahead, in which he discussed the possibility of computers revolutionizing the world in a few years. in a leap so significant that it made previous innovations seem insignificant. In 1999, he released his second book, Business: The Speed of Thought. In this book, Bill Gates predicted a scenario that has materialized in today's world, with various innovations that would represent full integration through the internet and over the internet. Gates predicted that in a few years, there would be two types of companies: those doing business over the internet and those left out. Circumstances favored his predictions, and since then, he continued to grow his empire. Microsoft began leading various innovations, but not all were successful. For instance, the Windows Phone failed to achieve the success of Apple and Samsung. Additionally, Microsoft faced setbacks over the years. In 1998, the US government filed an antitrust lawsuit against Microsoft, alleging monopolistic behavior. It claimed that Microsoft had become a monopoly by entering contracts with nearly all global computer manufacturers to distribute Windows systems, thereby limiting competition by offering its operating system at extremely low prices. By controlling almost the entire market, Microsoft could continue offering its operating system at a lower price, mainly relying on the steady increase in personal computer sales. During this time, the internet experienced a major boom, and both businesses and households were buying more than one computer, making the product increasingly popular. In this scenario, even though Microsoft practiced lower prices, it could still stifle potential competitors by simply undercutting them. This strategy led critics to view Gates as a market predator. A year before the trial began, Gates had already stepped down from the CEO position of the company, which was taken over by his friend Steve Ballmer. During the trial, several accusations were made regarding Gates's conduct, and he received mixed receptions from critics. Many believed that he was simply trying in his own way to defend his company, while others saw him as extremely arrogant and disrespectful to the court he was subject to. The company was eventually found guilty, and Microsoft had to adjust to a new reality due to government intervention. As a result of the lawsuit, the company was required to keep its prices at a higher level. The lawsuit began during the tenure of Democratic President Bill Clinton, but was only resolved 4 years later during the tenure of Republican President George Bush. Due to the lawsuit, Microsoft spent millions on lawyers and legal fees, but ultimately reached an agreement with the US government, which included a series of conduct adjustments. The conclusion of the lawsuit also marked Bill Gates's complete withdrawal from the day-to-day operations of Microsoft, which occurred gradually. While he previously held some executive positions, he transitioned to serving only on the company's board since 2006. His friend Steve Ballmer served as CEO of Microsoft until 2014, when he was succeeded by Indian-born Satya Nadella. Since then, Gates has devoted himself entirely to the project he co-founded in 2000 with his wife Melinda, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which focuses on funding research on AIDS, polio, vaccines, and other diseases, as well as promoting scientific work. Bill Gates has donated a significant portion of his fortune to charitable causes. According to a survey by Forbes magazine, Gates donated approximately $35 billion between 1994 and 2017, and he continues to donate substantial amounts annually. In 2009, he, along with his friend Warren Buffett, signed a pledge to donate at least half of their fortunes to charity. Due to his recurring donations, Bill has lost the title of the world's richest person several times at specific moments. For many, his donations justify why he is no longer the richest person in the world. In fact, the difference between his fortune and that of the second-place holder, Bernard Arnault, would be surpassed if the donations were included in the calculations. In addition to his wealth and philanthropic efforts, Bill has also received honorary titles, such as the Order of the British Empire, and honorary degrees from the universities of Cambridge and Harvard. Throughout his history, Bill Gates has not only built an empire, but also transformed the way humans interact with machines. With the advent of his products, human relationships have been transformed, and millions of businesses are conducted worldwide daily through computers. It's certainly possible to understand how the world became different after Bill Gates.